With all the changes going on in the world, have you suddenly found yourself having to change the way you do things just to keep operations going? Today, Jase from Kaser Blasting is here to discuss the ways disruptions like raw materials and payrolls are reshaping his day-to-day business decisions. We cover hiring, ordering, and job flow to managing marketing efforts and sales. Is it a mad world out there, or simply a matter of changing the channel to a new station? Get ready to level up your powder coater game.
Okay, well, with that, let's get started. Welcome to the Powder Coater Podcast. I'm Kim Scott, your host, and I have back with us, it's been about a year, Jase Kaser from Kaser Blasting and Coating. Welcome back, Jase. How are you doing these days?
Doing good. Thanks for having me back. I can't believe that it's been a year since we originally talked on.
I know, it's crazy. The last time we talked, it was sort of an introduction to your fabulous blog. I know you're probably still blogging these days. I'm not as much. What has gone on in the last, maybe a year for you guys in terms of your business and stuff like that? Give us a brief update on Kaser Blasting.
Okay. The last time we talked, was that like before COVID?
No, it was during COVID.
During? Okay.
Yeah. So it's about a year ago, a little bit over a year ago.
So we've still been maintaining a lot of work. We've been really, really busy. And so that really hasn't fallen off. I feel like all of our industrial customers are back up to full production and trying to catch up on maybe stuff that they got behind on. So we've been trying to play catch up as well. Like everybody, struggling with materials and supplies, trying to get those sourced and find them. That's been really difficult. That's probably the biggest thing that's slowing us down. And then also in our neck of the woods in Nebraska, it seems like it's really hard to find good help right now. Almost every small business or any size business is hiring. So that's been a struggle. There's plenty of work to do. We could do more work if we could find some more people to join the team, but that's been challenging. Otherwise, overall, it's been good. We've been growing, but it's just been super busy. It's been challenging because it's just so busy, and we want to continue to grow and add more customers. And a lot of our current customers just want us to keep doing more and more work, but trying to balance that with actually being able to get it done has been a challenge. So it's a good problem to have. I'd much rather have the problem that we have so much work to do and we're worried about how we're going to get it done than not have anything to do.
I agree. We're kind of in the thick of it too right now. The island kind of gets really, really hopping before Christmas because we have so many large jobs that need to get done. It's usually, I call it contractor season. Okay. Usually it can start as early as July, but it pretty much goes to like the 24th of December, sometimes, in the 11th hour kind of thing. But it has been sort of unprecedented up until we've been busy this time of year before, but we, prior to COVID, and it's kind of interesting to see how log jammed it is right now. I mean, and unexpectedly busy and log jammed, and coming out of the woodworks, like, how did we not know about this job? Or how did, why are you just coming to us now? you know, kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. But I was commenting early, you're wearing a beanie and I'm like sweaty hot.
Yeah, it was the first really cold day here in Nebraska. So it was down in like the lower 30s and the wind chill was in the 20s. And I was on the forklift most of the day and there was flurries. So it was a nice blustery day.
Yeah. And, you did talk, I did follow your last Instagram. I see you mostly on Instagram, but I know you do Twitter and LinkedIn. You were talking, it was raining and you were in your car, it looked cold, and you were saying like how hard it is to sort of get into this powder coating when there's a lot more moisture in the air compared to the rest of the year. Why don't you recap for the audience what some of the things, do you have to prepare your customers, or is it more about changing things in the shop? What makes it know that you're having problems or issues?
So basically when it's raining, that's always creates chaos around our campus. So for parts that are currently in process, if they've been blasted, they can't get wet. And so even though we have large buildings, like I said, we're really busy. So that means we're always out of space, which is a good problem to have. We should, if we're busy, we should be out of space. But if it starts to rain, anything that's been blasted and sitting outside has to come inside, obviously. Mm-hmm. Our blasting and powder coating shops are in different buildings that are right next to each other, but we have to go outside to get to shop. So we don't want the rain to be on blasted parts as we're going to powder.
Right.
And then like finished parts, if we know it's going to be an interior application, we don't want that to sit outside in the rain, even though it's been coated. It's probably not a good enough coating to be out in the weather. But the biggest problem that we see or that we have is that if we have parts that we know we're going to blast and powder coat, so they are sitting outside, because it doesn't matter if they get semi-rusty, because we're going to blast it anyway. If there are parts and pieces that are kind of nested together, panels or just anything that'll nest, water will work its way in between, and then it'll just stay in there and rust really badly in between, and like deep pitting. Could be brand new steel, but it'll deep pit rusting. And so then you can't really blast that back out. And now these brand new parts are ruined. So that's a concern that we usually have, even if it's, we know we're going to blast it, we try to get that inside as well. Or once it's done raining, we have to go take the time to spread it all out so it'll actually dry out. Our recent blog was on that sometimes you can't see any of that corrosion, or that it's so deep, until after you get all the way through and you've powder coated it. Because you just look at it in the right light with like a shiny powder and you can see kind of some dips and divots, then that's not going to be acceptable. Those are really frustrating because you just don't know. So that's why over time we get really panicked when it's getting ready to rain. It's usually kind of a fire drill.
Yeah. You kind of have to like anticipate how, and it can really severely, you're set on one plan, and then all of a sudden something moves in a different direction. A rain cloud appears, and you're like, the whole plan is just out the window. I mean, we have that here. Not so. It is rainy here in Kahalua. We're about ready to go into the rainy season. So this will be, last year it seemed drier for us. Like I don't remember as much rainy weather, but they are predicting more rain this year than last year. So it'll be interesting. We also have a canal in the back too, which kind of like starts to really rise up. Like a pond, or, like pretty drastically, because they never clean it out and it never drains properly. So, there have been times when it's literally been at the door for us. So, you do have to kind of, concern yourself with how you're going to go about getting through the day, I guess, so to speak, so.
Yeah. And then we're going to be running into snow soon. And that's always extremely challenging, because then you've got icy parking lots where you're trying to load and unload, and a lot of snow can end up on parts, and that's not easy to get off of there. And so that.
And you're mostly
really painting, not looking forward to winter,
the solid tone colors, right? You're not doing a lot of, fickle kind of powders. You're not dealing with, it's mostly industrial stuff that you do. Is that true?
We do some like veins, like a copper vein or so. And we have a few hammer tones as our stock colors. So usually general public for their lawn furniture and railings might pick that. But for industrial customers, yeah, you're correct. It's usually like out of an RAL deck.
Which is nice because you can have some sense of consistency there where, you know, especially if you're ordering from generally the same supplier all the time, you know, what it's capable of doing or what it's not capable of doing rather than, you know, some crazy candy or dormant or whatever, you know, like where it's got some variability. Here's a message from today's sponsor.
Ross Coat here from Maui Powder Works. You know, we've been providing customers with high-end custom coatings for over 20 years. We love the powder coating business. Making auto parts, patio furniture, and stuff beautiful for our customers is the fun part. As you know, the hardest part of any job is getting parts prepped for finishing. At times, this means removing tough industrial OEM coatings, which can take hours, if not days, of chemical stripping and sandblasting. Our business was revolutionized when we discovered the great strippers from Benco Sales. Their customer service folks asked the right questions and recommended a stripper tailored for our needs. Give them a call today at 1-800-632-3626.
Get 10% off any B17 products when you mention Rosscoat. But you're still having some hiring issues. And you said in your town, there's like one on every building in your town. Like everybody is pretty much having a hard time hiring or finding people.
Absolutely.
How big is your population there?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know.
Not enough. That's the answer.
I should know that, but it's reasonably good size in Lincoln. Omaha is the biggest city in Nebraska, but then Lincoln would be the second, and Lincoln's the capital. But yeah, everywhere it seems like especially small businesses, but really it doesn't matter the size of business. There's a now hiring sign almost everywhere. And I don't know, it seems like maybe that there's less people out seeking employment, but also it just seems like everybody's busy, which is a good thing. And so I think it's just kind of a combination of both. Everybody's busier, and so they're just looking for more people than they ever have in the past. And then maybe the people that are out looking for employment, that pool might be a little smaller. But it is a common problem. Almost everybody you talk to has it. I go through the kind of roller coaster of being really frustrated that we can't find help to being optimistic because we've had some good interviews. And then some people will start, and like always, you know, some work out, some don't. So recently it's felt like you take one step forward, two steps back in terms of like trying to grow and add some more people. But at the same time, we have the most people working here that we ever have had. So it's not like that we've lost a ton of people, and that it's just we're growing and we have plenty of more work that we want to do and keep doing for our current customers. So we need to add more people. So we are making forward progress. It just sometimes doesn't seem like it.
Are you any tactics that you're using specifically when you're looking or hiring?
So we post on the internet. There's a company called HireClick that's kind of like in the Midwestern area that we've been using. We use ZipRecruiter as well. We utilize our social media, and like you can post jobs on Facebook, and I think we have one up on LinkedIn also. So we're trying to do that as much as we can. We've been thinking about lately, just like how are we getting in front of the right people? Are people actually searching for powder coating jobs? Do they even know what powder coating is? So we're trying to figure out like, how do we get in front of somebody that wants to work in kind of manufacturing, manual labor environment, but doesn't even know powder coating exists? We haven't figured that out yet, but I feel like that we're missing out on some people that would enjoy it and would work really well. They just they're not seeing the ad or, not seeing the posting. So we're working on that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I mean, we're a smaller proportion of the painting industry. And so people would just naturally just use that word probably when they're searching in these platforms, posting platforms and stuff. It is kind of strange because, how do you write that perfect ad that attracts someone, the right person? Maybe that's for another podcast. Do you feel like you have some pretty competitive rates that you're paying people and benefits and stuff like that? I mean, where do you stand? I mean, do you feel that way? I mean, it's hard to compare yourself to another company or whatever.
I think so. We've been working really hard on our benefits package. We were just ready to ramp it up before COVID, then it hit. We kind of put it on pause, but we added some good benefits in terms of just like insurance and things. And I feel like I've raised kind of our starting pay over the past year or so. It's quite a bit higher than what it used to be. And we're kind of having to do that because there's so many people hiring. So it's almost like everybody's just competing for the few people that are out looking for a job. It's not really like we're not necessarily competing against other coding companies. It's just every company.
Every company, right? Yeah.
I feel like right now we're as competitive as we can be. And then obviously, we still have to think about our really good team members that are here and helping us get the work done. So we can't overlook all their effort and like put all this extra incentive on new hires and not, take care of people that already work here, because that's really unfair. So we're trying to slowly, add benefits to help. We're picking the ones that will help our team the most that are currently here. And then hopefully the incoming people will appreciate them as well. I'd like to snap my fingers and do it, but it's a slow process. We're a small business, so we can't just immediately all of a sudden offer everything that a huge 1,000-person company can
right. Offer, so. Yeah. And in that, does that kind of, I don't know how much sales and marketing you currently do. I know you're pretty prevalent on several platforms, just as an information supplier, educational supplier, and stuff like that. Not necessarily trying to attract customers or drive business to you, but if you do currently have marketing efforts going on, is that hiring issue or worrying about getting more business coming in? Is it playing a role in how you're marketing and doing your sales strategy, or is
gotcha.
What I'm saying? You don't want to attract too much.
It's always intertwined. So it's again, that's a roller coaster for me. It's kind of a day-to-day thing. So when we're struggling to find help and some of our current customers have a ton of projects that they're pushing to get done, and someone calls in sick or someone's late, to where I feel like our current team, we're down for the day, we're behind already. And then I get 3 or 4 things that come across my desk that I need a quote. It's hard to be optimistic and be like, yeah, I want to quote this and be aggressive and get it, because in my mind, I'm thinking there's no way we can get this done. But then there's other days where production goes really, really well. And everybody's here and we get farther down the schedule than I thought. And so if stuff's coming across my desk that day, then I'm super aggressive. And so it's a daily thing.
Kind of a luck of the draw kind of thing, right?
It's very intertwined. I try to always just err on the side of just say yes, because I'll regret it if I don't. And we'll just find a way to get it done.
Yeah. So. I know what you mean. Yeah. Ross and I kind of learned that concept a long time ago, is just say yes.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's going to happen. Somebody could duck out at the last minute, and then what? Where would you now losing out?
Right.
I think that played more prevalently with when we had our boat company and we had a maximum of 24 passengers, and we'd always overbook because some tourist was late, or some guy forgot what day they were supposed to be on the boat, or something happened, and we ended up with the perfect amount of people anyways. And so we learned that concept pretty early on, is, probably much to my husband's dismay, because I'm personally saying yes to everyone, because I'm now on the phone all the time. They're calling him less, and they're calling the main line more, probably because he's not responding on his phone. And so, I'm kind of more of the yes man, and he's kind of, whoa, wait, or let's put that off because I don't have time for that right now.
Yeah.
And so,
and what I found is, like, even though when everybody says that they need it right away, because that's what it always is, usually, even if you get 10 jobs in one day and everybody says they need it right away, usually half of them only need it quickly, and the other half will be patient. They're not going to act like it, but they end up being patient. So it kind of works itself out. And, there's some people that are not reasonable and they want it immediately and going to be on top of you the whole time. But you just,
but who those guys are, and, they mean business, right? So then we have a customer, it's like classic, always hurry up and wait kind of classic, and it's like, he knows enough. That's who he's working with now. But, they're, it's always this tug and pull kind of thing.
Yeah. But it's like, you just piece it all together. And that's why I don't, like you said, if you say no to a couple people, then all of a sudden a few other jobs fall through, and it's like, oh, well, I guess we did have time. So,
yeah. I'm just a positive, I'm always thinking positive, right? So like, it'll work out, instead of like, no, afraid, kind of thing. But now let's move on to chemical shortages. I have been seeing like some discussion in the forums and some of the Facebook groups that, like, people have been calling, or they've run out of stripper, or they're about to run out of stripper. We're certainly one of those people right now, where we're on our last bit, and, killing myself last night thinking I should have placed that order back in July, because now now we're looking into our January schedule and taking bookings for January. And it's like, what if I don't have the stripper by then? Like, what if it doesn't come in by then? How will we be restoring then? And so you can kind of run yourself ragged at 3:00 in the morning about it. I reached out to one of our sources, but I wanted to see from you first before I share what she replied back. Is how on top of your chemicals are you pretty good with keeping up with your supply to begin with, or have you seen any shortages just yet?
We're seeing shortages in everything except for our pretreatment chemicals right now. We don't use any strippers. I assume those are more exotic chemicals, so they're probably hard to get at the moment. But our iron phosphates and alkaline cleaners and deoxidizers and zirconiums, I haven't seen it yet. And last time I talked to our rep, he wasn't worried about it. Powder seems like a little bit, I wouldn't call it shortage. It just is slower moving now, harder.
Yep.
It takes a little longer to get. Paint, extreme shortage on liquid paint, like literally just can't get some of it for long periods of time. And then a lot of our packaging materials, anything with like poly in it, like foam, stuff like that, that's been challenging. I'm always one to be prepared. I like to have a spare for everything. So I usually keep plenty of stuff in stock, but definitely probably the beginning of this year, maybe like March and April, I really started to ramp up on stuff that I know we're going to use no matter what. And that kind of started with foam and shrink wrap because I went to order some and had a really hard time finding it back last spring. And so then I just started ordering like enough for a couple months because they're like, well, you can order as much as you want, but you're not going to have it for 2 months. And then it's like, okay, if we don't have foam, we can't do anything because we have to have that to package, parts. So since then I've been slowly like creeping up our stock. and trying to work on that more. And I just actually ordered a ton of our pretreatment chemical, enough for like the next probably 3 months or so, just to make sure, because like that's probably one of the materials that I don't feel comfortable just like calling around and ordering from somewhere else. As far like maybe a stripper is not as big a deal, but with all of our pretreatment chemicals, they're very specific to our water. So they're formulated to like the water that we have in our building.
Right.
So I can't and I don't want to just order that from somewhere else. Whereas like if I can't get an RAL color from PPG, who I normally get it from because they're out, I'm not extremely concerned if I have to get it from Tiger. Like I know it's so good. Well, but pretreatment chemicals, that could cause a really big disaster if I had to like use somebody else's just randomly.
Yeah. And even the PPE, I mean, we have a pretty limited source here on the island. There's just one. And so I'm relegated to that because I usually needed it yesterday. But, you know, PPE is expensive. And then you work so hard to say, negotiate with a certain company, a price, you know, based on the volume that you're buying. And then, you know, they start to have shortages, you know, like that's all that work is out the window kind of thing. Absolutely. And then you've got to start from, you know, square one again with somebody else who may have some more. So that kind of disrupts your balance sheet, not your balance sheet, but your profit and loss and your cost of goods and stuff like that. Have you seen any, you know, like we did talk about powder pricing and stuff like that. It's just got another notice the other day. I won't ad nauseum put it in the Coder News segment because this is like literally like the fourth time that I've actually had an email from, I think this time it was Axel Nobel again, increasing another 10 or 20%. Now that's a total of 60% increase in certain products that they've done since December. So that's kind of interesting, especially when you look at a mega corporation that big and they're already just not, you know, thinking twice about charging another 10 or 20% every time they come out with an email about price increases, you know. I mean, how much has it affected you? And here's a side question. Do you know what percentage of your profit and loss, percentage only, if you are familiar with your P&L, what percentage do you pay out in a percentage of income for powder? Do you happen to, I know the clock is ticking, ding, 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 ding.
I don't know. Honestly, right off the top of my head, I don't know the percentage of that. I probably should, but powder material is the cheapest part of our process. Pretreatment chemical is probably the most expensive, but I look at, because I started with, you know, liquid painting a little bit and just growing up, listening to my dad talk about liquid paints. And when you look at price of pre-COVID and all that, you look at the price of liquid paint compared to powder, it's like night and day. Like powder
it is next,
and does just as good a job. So percentage, it would be extremely small. But price increases, yeah, absolutely. Everybody's been doing price increases. Most of it was on just all the extra miscellaneous supplies. Now we're starting to see it on powder. But yeah, you're right. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised that they're doing increases. I'm surprised that they're doing such big chunks at a time. But I guess they have to. I mean, they're in a business too. And so obviously they have.
Right. They have to keep up
decisions. But yeah, it's always, it seems like always 10%. The thing that's been a little bit frustrating is I wish the communication was a little better. And I always like about how communication is important and wish reps did a better job. But it sucks that they're increased their prices. But like we also will just increase our prices to our customer Because like nothing's really locked in anymore. Even if you had something quoted, like now everybody pretty much understands that price is volatile. But I like to like let my customer know, like, hey, especially if it's a repeat customer, like next month we're gonna have to, raise it so much. But sometimes we're just going to order powder, and then they're like, oh, this is a new price. I'm like, well, when did that go into effect? Oh, it wasn't we did it last week and we just put it into effect immediately. Like, okay, I get that, but it would have been like nice to tell us. But so that's been the frustrating part, is just be nice to know that it was coming up so you can plan for it a little bit. But
here's a message from today's sponsor.
Do you know chemical strippers from Benco Sales reduced our prep time by up to 80%? We chose Benco B17 and have been using it now for 5 years. We were surprised at how effortless it removed finishes from literally anything we put into it. Removal takes minutes, not hours. Several suppliers over the years have told us they have something as good as B17, but don't believe it. There's a reason the name B17 is universally applied for those claiming to have fast strippers. Buy it by name and available only by Benco Sales. B17 is the industry benchmark by which every other stripper is compared. Accept no substitute. Get started today by going to bencosales.com. BEMCO sales.com.
Say Roscoe sent you for 10% off B17.
Yeah, and it's something to think about as the new year comes closer, because it's always good to review that by the end of the year, so that first month of January, it's a great opportune time to let your customers give out an email to say, look, this is some of the stuff we're dealing with, and yes, this is the new price or whatever. Yeah. So we're getting close to that time period where you probably could start thinking about price increases. I think personally, price increases are now on the rise for powder coating in general, not because of powder pricing, because we just said that it's not as critical as maybe some like versus liquid coatings, but because the demand for powder coated products is going to start booming, and it's going to continue to boom. Talking about your abrasive blasting, because you do a lot of blasting. What about that segment for you? Have you seen a lot of, I haven't totally seen a lot, and I haven't seen any disruption. We just ordered we order from GMA, their supply of garnet works for us. And I was amazed at how fast it came from Texas. I mean, I literally ordered it 3 weeks ago and it came yesterday. That's very fast. So you haven't seen any disruption there or price increase there, have you?
So in our main blast unit, we use steel grit, and we're able to recycle that. So I don't have to buy steel grit very often. It's usually only a couple times a year. So I haven't placed an order recently. Since it's steel grit, it's going to be more expensive because steel prices are higher. They've seemed to kind of level off and come down. So that might not be too bad. Crushed glass is another one. I haven't ordered that in a while because I usually order enough for like almost a whole year when we order it. Aluminum oxide, we do order that directly from GMA. I didn't read the email, but I saw I got an email from GMA and then it said price increase this afternoon. So I assume that's probably on the aluminum oxide, and it might get to 10% like everything else has been going.
Right. Yeah. I had Pete on from GMA a few months ago now, and he said they were pretty, I don't know if he necessarily said it in the podcast, but maybe after the show, we kind of had been talking. He said they were quite secure with their, despite all these disruptions and stuff, they were actually really quite secure. In fact, they just had secured a new mine. I think they had bought somebody out or something. And so they were actually pretty good with their supply rates. And weren't anticipating any kind of disruption. But it's funny how it's been up and down, like different industries, different products,
The one thing that I found really interesting, and I feel like it's an indicator of how strong a company is, whether it doesn't matter the size, but even at like the top level of these really huge corporations that are worldwide, some of them really aren't having any problems or very little with their shortages. You can get stuff from them very easily. The price might be up, but that makes sense because basic economics, the demand's high, they can charge a higher price. It just is what it is. But then there's other really large companies that are their competitors that are really struggling. You can't, it's really hard to get anything from them. And it's just interesting to me because obviously they run their businesses differently, to where, there are some that are extremely prepared, that not maybe prepared in terms of like for like a huge thing like COVID, but like they just run, whatever
margins, maybe
whatever the opposite of lean would be. So when everybody's extremely lean and just in time, that is not working right now because it just puts everything behind. So the people that run a little bit more with a cushion, it seems like those companies are doing well. And it's nice to be we have a few that are suppliers for us, and it's nice that they have the stuff and we can just keep going.
I kind of think I do agree with you on that because I just ordered some new filters for the spray booth. And we have the pocket kind.
Okay.
If that makes a difference. This was our first time ordering. I don't think Ross ordered it from this time around. We ordered it from a different person. He's always looking he goes for the price first, not necessarily repeating, but I went ahead and just went with wherever he wanted me to order it from, and then realized I hadn't heard from them for about a week. And I'm thinking, usually I get like an update about it when it's shipping out, or that it's shipping out in 48 hours, or, and it was no small charge. It was like $750.
Yeah.
And stuff. And I'm like, hey, so when am I getting this stuff? And they're like, well, we're making it right now. And I'm like, you're making it? Listen, your website did not indicate that you were a maker of this stuff. You look like you're a reseller of this stuff, and that you can't get it, so I can't get it, right?
Yeah.
And then yesterday I said, well, you let me know, because I'm thinking at this point, maybe it's a scam, or maybe I'm like going to wait. It's on the slow boat to China, so to speak. And he, oh no, we'll get back to you. And then I said, hey, never, then I had to email again. And they're like, oh, it's going out today, but I'll get you the tracking later. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Some more of this stuff, right? They're probably doing everything they can to keep the sale and lengthen the time before I get it. So we'll see. I don't know how they're shipping it here. I'm assuming it's UPS, but again, it could be some slow boat kind of thing.
So some of the problem that we've been having is that our suppliers have it in stock, but UPS, FedEx, or other shipping companies are having a hard time actually getting it to us because I think because of labor shortages on their part, is because usually their logistics are very robust, but if they don't have anybody to actually move the stuff, then obviously move. How does that been affecting you guys since everything has to be shipped in from a really far distance?
Interestingly enough, shipping west is not as bad as it's been in the Midwest, East and Midwest.
Okay.
From what I hear from others and in talking to others, and then ordering for our own. Although I did order, like, it was one of those, I need 1 pound and I need it like 5 days ago kind of thing. So of course now I'm paying, I called Columbia and ordered the 1 pound that I needed, and ended up having to talk to Pam, she's the new general manager over at Columbia Coatings, about it. And I think because they moved Angela was my go-to girl, but then they moved her down in shipping. So if you're emailing Angela and she's not getting back to you, It's because she's now moved and not checking that email as much. But that's how I got a hold of Pam. And she was saying that they were having some really big issues with Federal Express. I paid $63 for the fastest Federal Express shipping on 1 pound. And I know probably people listening in, their mouths are dropping right now for how much I paid. It still took 5 to 7 days to get here. So I should have just put it in the USPS from Columbia and it would have been here just in time.
Yeah.
And
I had a problem with some powder. And so I didn't order enough or something happened. It was my fault that we were short. And so I was overnighting some in, and it was a lot of powder that I was overnighting in. So it was extremely expensive. And, but when they told me that one was from Tiger, I think, and they're usually really, really good about getting it out the same day. And they did, but they're like, just so you know, like UPS is not guaranteeing that when you say next day air that you'll get it. And other times that I've had to use it in the last 6 months, it has still been fine. Next day air, it still comes. So I was like, yeah, no problem. Don't worry about it, because I figured it would be here. Well, that was the one time I really needed it. And it was like, we did next day air, paid for it, but it took 2 days, which I mean, still fast, but it was like, it sucked because we did pay a lot to have it the next day, and it took
right.
days. So,
every now and then you get those jobs that it's like the timing of it all is, and you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't kind of thing. It's terrible when you're caught in that predicament, whether it's your fault or a customer's expedition or expediting the project, whatever. It just doesn't matter. But, I love that. One of the things we talked about in that first podcast with you was, this letting your customer know about timelines, because you are the finisher. You are always at the end of the line, and there are jobs that are always coming into you hot, and the pressure is on you to still keep that same deadline, even though things have changed on their end. It's not fair, but why don't you, for the audience sake, why don't you maybe recover that again? Because it's such a critical thing to know and to be reminded of, like how important it is to have all your ducks in the row, because there will be a time when that happens. And it's just so critical to keep your integrity as a coder and keep those work under pressure and, still produce a quality finish.
Yeah. So I was just talking to Chloe about this the other day. I feel like our backs are always against the wall, and our customers always just put us in a corner, and we have to figure out how to get out of it and deliver. And it seems like even more than ever, we are like responsible for making sure that the project gets done on time, because now like anything and everything is causing delays and the project behind. So when it gets to us, it's definitely past due, and we really have no room for error, which is why I've been trying to bring our stock up and make sure that we have all our supplies here, because like we can't, if we're going to miss it by like, if it's going to take a day longer, like that's huge, because it's already like 3 weeks past right now and it's getting to us, because it's everything. That's just the way the world is right now. So we are trying to communicate that. We're still trying really hard to schedule ahead, because like, if you know that you're going to send it to us in 3 weeks from now, tell us. It'll be easy. If we get it on the schedule, no problem. But the planning is still a challenging aspect for most people, it seems like. And we've been so busy. Usually I try to plan for our customers, and our repetitive ones, I try to reach out and figure out what their upcoming schedule is going to be. We've been so busy. I've been probably not doing a good job of that. And also it's just because of all of the shortages, whether it's labor or supply, nobody really knows. So it's like they can tell you when they're supposed to have it done, but they're waiting for this piece and that piece. Know when it's going to get to you. But yeah, you're right. Once it gets to us, we're the last ones in line and we never have enough time, but we still have to make sure it looks good. So we're just trying to be overly prepared. And our biggest downfall right now is we need a few more people on our team so we can deliver in at midnight when we have to get it done, we have enough people to accomplish it. So.
Yeah. Those gates that you saw just now getting into the oven there is for one of the billionaires that has just moved to Hawaii. Because there seems to be more and more.
Well, that sounds like a good customer to have.
We're helping out. We're not the lead on it, but we're certainly helping them finish the job. All I know is we found out about the job on Sunday, and it's just they're literally chartering flights to get it here, kind of thing, just to get it done. And they're paying expedite fees. They're paying extra fees for shipping. They're paying extra fees for shipping powder. They're, all of but the thing is billionaires can afford it.
Yeah.
Because inflation is good for them, right? Hyperinflation is good for them. It just makes their stuff grow. And so they don't mind paying all those fees. Let me share my screen because I want to talk about this concept and I don't know how to feel about it, but I just want to share it with the audience. And for those listening in, I will explain, I'll read it. Of course, I'm a fan of George Gammon on YouTube. If you are interested in economics and maybe explaining sometimes what the Fed does or what some of these larger central banks do for a living and how they affect our lives, I do like him because he tends to explain it on the background that you don't see. You see Janet Yellen and you see all these, Powell and all these people talking, but what does it mean, right? Or the interest rates going up or down, and what does it mean for the average American, right? But
hey guys, we never thought the Powder Coder podcast would take off as well as it has. The level of engagement and bringing custom coders together has been wonderful and worth every late night edit and weekend recording.
Whether it's product features, smart business strategies, or custom coder interviews, we are encouraged to continue to bring great content. That's why we're going to show you how you can help us just a little bit more by sponsoring the show for as little as $1, $5, or $10 per month.
Just go to rosscoat.com page and look for the Become a Patreon button in the upper right-hand corner of the page. Once you're there, you can scroll to learn more about our goals and mission, grow our community by bringing you new episodes and news each week.
With every sponsor level, you get something for yourself, too, to guarantee your success as a powder coder. We are so thankful for you and enjoying the content we bring you each week and hope you show your support by becoming a sponsor. And level up your powder coder game. This is kind of almost about 10 minutes into this latest one, but he's talking about hyperinflation versus deflation. It was a very interesting segment, but he brings up this guy who was an industrialist. So let's just say an equivalent to a billionaire that we know today. And he had a huge empire in industry in Germany during the Weimar Republic. in the 20s. And he basically justified inflation as a means of guaranteeing full employment. I'm not sure that relates to that doesn't necessarily solve your problems, Jase, but I found it kind of interesting that he was actually saying it was a good thing. And the reason for it is because it's something desirable as the course of a course open to a benevolent government. And, the Weimar Republic, they were just printing money beyond. And their dollars, people were picking up the marks and throwing them into the classic, burning them in the stove because they were worth more, heating up the house, or carrying them to the store for a loaf of bread in a bucket or a container, like some kind of a truck of something, just to buy groceries. But I found it kind of interesting. I think obviously there's a lot to discuss here in his video, but it kind of shocked me. I never thought of it that way. And they thought that he was very bold to say that, it's not a nice thing to say about humanity or about what they're doing in manipulating people. But it seemed like it may not be the same now today with our economy, but I found that was very provocative thing to say back then,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's inflation going on because the price for everything is going up. But yeah, I wish that it was driving our employment up a little bit because, we're definitely still struggling to find people.
Well, and I think that because of this COVID thing, I think, and I noticed this when we had the Great Recession, is a lot of people just left the workforce and they never came back.
Yeah.
Whether they just took early retirement or they just decided to stay home and be a mom or who knows, or they got disability or whatever. I noticed that then, and I'm noticing it now again. This is a different circumstance. Obviously, we all stayed home or tried to stay home or whatever. And then now these people that have stayed home are continuing to stay home and not go back to work. So it's like there's even less people in the workforce is, I guess, what he means to say in that. It's just like we're taking people out of the economy or out of the workforce because they're not coming back. They're still at home. They're living off of the STEMI checks or their unemployment checks. They've just been hanging on to it in their checking accounts and living off until they need to. That's not for everyone or every state or every county, but I found that kind of interesting. Of course, I walked into Home Depot yesterday and the whole place was hopping. And it was nuts in there. Lots of people in the pro, lots of people self-checkout. It wasn't just the typical homeowner lollygagging around for a plant or, picking up some cleaner or something like that. It was like the boys was in there, you know what I mean? And picking up their stuff. So I think there's just less people in the workforce.
Yeah. I actually just thought of something when you said that, like some people aren't coming back to the workforce but another thing that I hadn't really thought about till now is like when COVID kind of happened and all the subsequent things that have happened after that, it was a pretty big shakeup, but it also actually added some new job types actually that didn't exist before, at least in our area. Like you can pretty much order anything from anywhere and have it delivered to your door now. That didn't used to exist. And it's very easy to get that accomplished very quickly. So there's a lot of people that used to work somewhere else that are now doing those delivery services. And then when everybody is forced to work from home for a while, I mean, they've probably gotten other better jobs working from home now. So that's something that I hadn't really thought about, that some of it is probably still in the workforce. It's just COVID has probably accelerated a little bit of some job changing, more like, like so much happens on the internet now. And so that was kind of a trend anyway, but I think it accelerated it because everybody is ordering, off the internet now, at least for like myself. Like I used to I would go to Home Depot. I would go into Menards. I would go into Lowe's and be buying parts to fix things or rig something up, or so we can hang a new project that came in. And now I just default to, I just order. I might order it from there, but I pick their delivery and then they deliver it to us, so.
Right. I think you're right about that for sure. 100%. I mean, my buying habits have changed just personally, too. If I can avoid going to Target or Safeway, I just do the app thing. And I think that that's kind of the interesting thing about it is that if I can't believe like Safeway has this wonderful service where I can just drive up and somebody picked all that stuff. And this girl, like if they were out of something, she was like texting me, oh, do you want this one instead? I'm like, I'm not paying extra for this, or maybe I'm just paying a minimal fee. Like that's totally worth it. So yeah, you're right. We're so busy in our lives that it's actually creating a whole new industry of helpers. Right.
Yeah.
And I guess, shopping for someone with a checkout list and all you got to do is go through the aisle and take it off or whatever. If that's an easy enough job to do. I mean, no stress other than just trying to get it done in time. But it's kind of interesting. I'm also amazed at how fast Amazon is getting stuff here to me. It almost seems like it's overnight now. And we don't even have our distribution center open yet. Bezos just bought a huge plot of land on Oahu that he's going to finally get this distribution center that he's always wanted in Hawaii here, probably because he moved here, or he's going to be here part-time now on Maui. And, he can't be left without his, Alexa. So it'll be interesting to see how fast stuff gets out even now once they get that distribution center open.
Be very quick because most of us can be right there. So.
Right. But it's quick enough already. I mean, just if you order an Amazon basic thing, brand or whatever, it seems like it's already here. So maybe they already have a distribution here. Some basic items like maybe toilet paper or whatever, Kleenex or whatever.
So does everything mostly come in air freight to you guys then?
Yeah, exactly. Or by boat.
Okay. How is all of the, and I don't know enough about it. You probably know more just because geographically you're closer, but there's a lot of issues, I think, like the California coast where, there's a lot of ships sitting out there. Is that like back onto you guys or not?
We haven't. It's interesting. I don't think we've suffered as much as you guys have, or at least California is. And I asked this question yesterday to my next door neighbor who sells golf carts, and he buys them from China. They're cheapy golf carts. I don't get his business model, but I'm probably not his buyer either. But he sells these things for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. He's a hyperinflationist. So I'm just going to say that right off because he is hoarding like crazy. He's buying all the tires, all the batteries, which are lithium. He's one of the largest lithium suppliers in Hawaii. So a lot of people, Tesla people call him too. And he is just, he's in it. He just expanded the whole warehouse next to us. He's just huge. I don't know how he's paying it for it now, because if he's planning on hyperinflation and the inability to get goods, he may just be the winner here. I don't know how it will work out for him, but he does get his stuff shipped. Now, he bought 2 containers worth of these golf carts, and they are sitting out somewhere stuck in Taiwan. Because of the California thing happening. It is backing up on some other levels.
Okay.
But a lot of stuff does get directly shipped here first.
So it comes from right into your guys' like port then basically, and it just bypass.
Yeah, we don't get a lot, but like it doesn't have to go through California and then turn around and ship out again. That wouldn't make sense at all.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, Powder Coating Nation, Kim Scott here. It's time to grow your business with us. The Powder Coating Near Me directory can get your powder coating shop the real exposure it needs to succeed when you list your job shop today. Join a list of top custom coaters who've listed their credentials to be discovered by the customers who are searching for powder coating every day. Head over to powdercoatingnearme.com, click Add a Coating Shop, and start creating your very own page for free. Yes, free. You can add your logo, name, address, phone number, map listing, social media links, photos, video, and more. When you submit your listing, we'll get notified and approve you right away. Now you can add all the categories you specialize in and even add your own tags. Get the SEO and valuable backlinks your company needs for authority and getting ranked. You can even use the link you create and share it to your favorite social media profiles to build legitimacy as a custom coder. What are you waiting for? Become part of the largest consumer search directory in powder coating in the world, all for free. Find and click the link in this podcast or go to powdercoatingnearme.com to get started growing your brand today.
At the same time, I don't think we get too much China stuff. If it's Walmart that's shipping stuff, it's shipping out of California to Hawaii.
Okay.
That is, I know for sure. But interestingly enough, if Bezos is planning, and apparently this building is massive, like hundreds of thousands of square feet. They have to build it, but that could be a way for him to kind of mitigate other things, with the California debacle. Maybe that's another way for him to kind of mitigate that problem and make Honolulu more of a Pacific distribution space.
Yeah.
We talked about that in the last podcast that I just did with a good buddy of mine, Ian, who is he is a welder who specializes in shipbuilding and repair specifically around Pearl Harbor. I mean, there's lots of shipbuilding going on. But his goal is his big global goal is to make Hawaii a shipping region, like shipbuilding, like building big ships here. And it'll be interesting if he can attain that goal. It's a fairly large one, but I just love that ability or ambition that he has, because that means he sees potential. I mean, we've got Guam out there, and we've got, but will be interesting to see. Of course, it also plays into the whole Hawaiian navigator story, that the Hawaiians were, world or Pacific wide travelers, right? They weren't just going from point A to point B. They went all over the Pacific, and even to the American West, and South America. So kind of interesting. I hope he makes his goal. It's going to be a big one, but he's got enough energy to do it. So if you haven't listened to that podcast, please do, because he's so inspirational to talk to and listen to and stuff. So, well, that's awesome. I loved talking to you today. I think we covered it all. Did you want to cover, we talked about a lot.
We did talk about a lot. I can't really think of anything else.
Yeah, well, it's good to know that you guys are doing really well and continuing to grow. If you need a job, call Jase.
Please.
You could also put an ad up on the Powder Coating Near Me website. So just send me your ad that you have on, your job link ad or whatever description, and I'll put it up. I have to do it myself. You can't make it, you can't post it yourself, but if you send me the link to the Indeed or whatever, I'll just copy and paste the text and put it up. And I've done it for a few coders. We have a few of them up there that are looking for jobs and still posting and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe that, that website's doing really well. It's growing. It has 150 top page in Google links,
Okay.
stuff like that. So a lot of coders are getting links, clicks to jobs from there. And I hope to do an update on that soon too as well. But anyways, it's always great to have you, Jase. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's nice talking to you.
All right. Aloha.